Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 85 of Crunch Time. I am going to be your host for the second week in a row. I know I can hear the excitement from here. I will be your host again. I am Tanner Dislin, and I am joined, as always, by my duo, my companion, Sam. How the hell are you?
Dude, I am doing great, man. We got some freaking championship week basketball on the way leading into the famous March Madness. We got Chattanooga versus Furman in a battle for the SoCon right now. And we got South Alabama playing Louisiana.
Yes.
Louisiana for the Sun Belt. Sun Belt Fun
I was
Belt.
gonna say we're big Sunbelt guys on this podcast. If you listen during college football, so we are tuned in.
Yeah.
Man,
There's no better time.
I was gonna say I think I speak for all of us when I say. It is the best time for college basketball of the year, and we are so excited to break it down for you. On today's episode, we are going to strictly talk about college basketball, do a little preview of the 5 major conference tournaments, some sleeper teams we got our eyes on. Who do we think are going to win? We did this last year. I know, Sam, I believe you had called Virginia Tech winning the
Yeah,
ACC
I did.
somehow
That's right.
last year. So who knows? We may know a thing or two about the sport. So stay tuned to see the dark horses we have picked out and our winners. But before we get into all of that, we are going to start as we always do with winners and losers. Sam, start us off for us. Who is your winner?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great way to kick off the episode, as always, with our winners. But today it's especially special because we already got some automatic bids going to the dance.
We got some people dancing, baby.
We got 5 teams so far. We're gonna get 2 more. Perhaps in this episode, we'll reveal those. Both Chattanooga and Furman are in the second half, and then South Alabama and Louisiana with each about 11 minutes left. But so we got from the Atlantic Sun Conference, first time in the March Madness tourney, Kennesaw State. They won their conference championship. Then heading to the Big South, UNC Asheville. Then Northeast, Farley Dickinson. I will talk about that certain championship later. Ohio Valley, we had Southeast Missouri State. And then from the Missouri Valley Conference, Des Moines' finest, the Drake Bulldogs beating down Bradley to win the Missouri Valley Conference championship. So it's already crazy. A lot of good games last weekend. Championship week, even for the small schools, is the best. So March is underway, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, you mentioned some of those names to already have punched their ticket. Kennesaw State, like you said, first ever in program history, so that's pretty cool. Getting new names in there. That was a team that we had seen. They came to Iowa City and played Iowa when we were going to school there. Drake, I mean, looked dominant.
Yeah.
En route to their Missouri Valley Conference title. They beat the living piss out of number 1 seed Bradley in the championship game. So Drake, who knows, maybe a team that can make some noise. So a lot of good tickets have already been punched, but for my winner, I'm going to stay in the conference championship realm. Another dominant path to conference victory, but I'm going to play a little bit closer to home. As you can see, got my 2022 Iowa Big Ten champion shirt on for the episode. And, well, I'm going to say the Iowa women's basketball team. My God, Sam.
Yeah.
Were they dominant. They did end up getting the double bye. I believe they were the 2 seed in the Big Ten Conference
Yeah, I believe Indiana was number 1.
Yes, Indiana was 1. So they did get that double bye. They beat Purdue in the first round, then played number 5 Maryland, who was number 3 in the Big Ten, a team they had lost to a couple days earlier, but took a very close, took a very good Maryland team late into the game. They ended up winning by 5, and then matched up with Ohio State. Ohio State had upset Indiana in the other semifinal, and oh my God, was this just complete beginning to end domination?
Yeah.
They ended up winning the game by 33. Caitlin Clark with a 30-point triple double. I think it was like 30,
Slight work.
30, 10, and 17.
Yeah, slight work. Slight work.
I believe Monica Cesano also added like 26 of her own.
Again, slight work.
Again, like
just another day in the office for those two.
Completely dominant, top to bottom. Great post presence. Caitlin Clark being the best player on the floor. Wherever they go, Gabby Marshall, absolute knockdown from the corner. She don't miss. It was a really fun weekend to watch the Iowa women's basketball team and back-to-back Big Ten champions. They are putting together just a fantastic resume over the past few years, 6 years or so.
Yeah.
As a program, I think might be 4 straight title games.
I believe
know they had won a few with Megan Gustafson years ago, and then now with Caitlin Clark in town, they're back-to-back. So I mean, they deserve every bit of it. Back-to-back Big Ten champs, done so in dominant fashion. The last 4 games, I mentioned the 3 in the tournament. In the game before that, the last game of the regular season, they ended up beating who was at the time number 2 Indiana on a Caitlin Clark buzzer beater. We had talked about that in last episode as well. So,
yeah,
I mean, the team's playing great basketball right now, and in the AP poll, jumped up to number 2 in the nation for their efforts. So, an all-around great week for the Iowa women's basketball program. You definitely deserve to be a winner in this episode, but.
Yeah, I just want to say something.
Go ahead.
The people that are saying Aaliyah Boston is player of the year in the women's clearly have never watched Iowa women's basketball. Caitlin Clark makes it look so effortless. She has thrown like freaking no-look passes, directing Cesano perfectly. Making full court passes, hitting threes from half court, just making it look so effortlessly. If she doesn't win player of the year, I'm going to riot.
It's rigged.
It's rigged.
It's rigged. So I'm just looking at, I'm looking at their schedule here. How many games? Let's see, they're 26-6 at the end of the Big Ten championship. So in 32 games, guess how many games Caitlin Clark did not lead the team in scoring? Of the 32 games, how many did she not lead the team in scoring?
How many losses do we have?
6.
I'm going to go 4.
So Caitlin Clark did not lead Iowa in scoring 2 times this year.
Oh my God.
One was when they against Drake when Monica Cesano put in 36.
Oh my Lord.
So yeah.
Slight work. Day in the office.
And the other one was against Rutgers where Davis? Do you know who Davis is? I don't know who
UC Davis?
No, the player's last name is Davis.
Oh, Davis.
She had 17. The final score 111-57 in that game. So I'm not sure Caitlin Clark got a ton of burn in the second half.
Yeah, probably not.
Just absolute dominance. The only argument I could have at least entertained all year long was the fact that South Carolina was just the better team. That angle that some people take on the MVP or National Player of the Year. Iowa's number 2 now.
Yeah.
You're number 1 and number 2, and the numbers, frankly, simply put, aren't close.
Exactly.
So when you have numbers that aren't close, you have teams that obviously are close because they're 1 and 2. I'm not saying Iowa's better than South Carolina, but I feel, again, you said it. If she doesn't win this year, I truly won't know what to say, and I think the state of Iowa and Iowa City in particular will revolt if she doesn't win this year because she should have won last year, didn't get it, and it's getting ridiculous now.
Yeah. Also, moving on, I want to give some quick shout-outs. South Alabama's playing. My buddy, shout out Cameron Tissue, made his broadcasting debut for the South Alabama baseball team. Color commentated the 2 games this week, including against Iowa. Did a great job there. And then also I want to shout out Lincoln Riley, not the USC head coach, but player for Eastern Illinois. hit his first homer today to help
Nice.
Eastern Illinois defeat Dayton 9-6. So wanted to give them their props. But moving on to losers, I mentioned is it Farley or Fairley?
Fairleigh
Dickinson, as I said, already punched their ticket, but due to the NCAA postseason eligibility rules, they had a walk in the park. So, as I said, they won the Northeast Conference tournament, moved to the final game, obviously, where they faced top seeded Merrimack. Well, Tanner, Merrimack is in their 4th season in Division One, so is actually ineligible for the NCAA tournament, and it is 4 seasons or less. So if this was next season, it would be fine. We've seen this in multiple times in March Madness, especially recently. Like I know it happened last year. I can't remember the teams, but yeah, NCAA rules suck. It forbid Merrimack and from playing in the tournament in their first 4 years in Division One, which just does not make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, I challenge everyone who's listening right now. Rack your brain. I challenge you to find a dumber rule in all of sports. Even further, I challenge you to give me one. All I want is one specific reason as to why this should be the case. Like one reason why. I would love to know it.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those where it, like I said, there's just no reason for it, and all it does is take fun, good teams that should be dancing and should be having the chance to upset others or playing in a play-in game and get a NCAA tournament win under their belt. All it is doing, it is robbing that school of that, taking money out of their pocket, hurting their athletic funding in the process, and all of us are losers.
Yeah.
And I think another example of this was, I think last year Bellarmine ended up winning.
Okay, I thought that's who it was.
Ended up winning the Atlantic Sun. Yeah, and they have. I tell you what, if you are a basketball fan, I challenge you, go to YouTube and look up this Bellarmine offense because
stuff.
It is next level stuff with the way they pass the ball. They have they would. In practice and in scrimmages and even in some games, they have a dribble limit where they will get open layups, dribbling the ball less than 3 times a possession. That is how fun they are. That constant cutting, constant ball movement, literally like a travel team that's trying to teach just cutting and roll, replace, and filling spots.
Exactly.
That's what they do at such an elite level. So much so that their first year in Division One, they won their goddamn conference, and we didn't get to see them play in March Madness. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. It happens in football too. It is really, really frustrating.
Yeah,
really frustrating.
Yeah, I think James Madison was a football team that didn't get postseason play this season. After I'm pretty sure they won the Sun Belt. So
won the Sun. I'm pretty sure they hosted game day. Like they were one of the most fun teams in college football, and we did not get to see them play in a bowl game. And Bellarmine and who else was Merrimack? Like, come on, man.
Yeah,
come on. Now I forget. Did you say so? They played Merrimack in the.
But I mean, it didn't matter.
Who won? Did Fairleigh Dickinson actually win?
Actually, they didn't play.
Oh, they just said screw it. There's no point.
Yeah,
dude. That just really makes me mad.
I know, right?
Really makes me mad.
Yeah, I believe they did. Yeah, they didn't play.
But yeah, everybody who's listening, you have homework because I need to know one person. Well, I need to know, is there a stupider rule in sports? And I also need to know, can someone give me one singular reason as to why this
Okay, so they actually are playing tomorrow, Tuesday at 6 p.m. But again, it doesn't matter. Why risk injury? You know. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my loser. The NCAA. I mean, that could be a loser every week. Let's be honest.
Another L in the NCAA's ledger. But for my loser, I'm gonna again stick right at home with one of the nation's most confusing teams, the Iowa Hawkeyes men's basketball team. Because let me tell you what, Sam, let me know if you've heard this before. And everyone who's listening, let me know if you've heard this before. Iowa, after a rough start to the season, after turning things around and things working out for them, getting help from other teams, they have a chance to end up exactly where they want to be heading into the postseason. In football, it was going to the Big Ten championship game. In basketball, it was getting the number two seed in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
All they have to do is beat a lackluster Nebraska team. In football, a team that I think had, 4 wins?
Yeah.
If that, 3
If
wins,
that
fired their head coach halfway through the year because it was that bad.
Yeah.
And a Nebraska basketball team who is, I think, third worst in the Big Ten, 16-15, flirting around 500. I believe they were a few games under 500 in the Big Ten, just a complete bottom feeder in the Big Ten. And both games, they end up losing against Nebraska. There is no chance in hell Iowa should have lost this game. They took 21 more shots than Nebraska, shot 36% from the field, shot 32% from 3. So 21 more shots, got 14 more offensive rebounds, 21-7. Had 12 steals. Nebraska turned the ball over 15 times, committed 17 fouls, and Iowa lost this game.
Sounds about right.
Nothing else to say with a incredibly confusing Iowa team. And try this one on for size. The Big Ten, the bottom 4 teams in the Big Ten were Minnesota, Nebraska, Minnesota, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. Those 4 teams, Iowa lost once to Ohio State, twice to Wisconsin, and twice to Nebraska. That is 5 losses to the bottom 4 teams in the Big Ten.
Chattanooga? Oh! No! Chattanooga with the game winner to win the Southern Conference champion. Oh,
Sam,
my God.
That was the throwback to last year's game.
Oh!
This is an all-time moment, ladies and gentlemen. This is an all-time moment. We are trying to record while watching the game. They showed a replay of last year's game between these teams that ended on a buzzer beater. And we reacted as if it was this year's game. That is an all-time moment. Oh, my God.
Add me to the loser list. Jesus, come on. Dude.
He started talking about it, so I looked up and saw it, so then I bought in, and then I was like, wait a minute. Oh.
So it's 8 minutes left. Furman's up 65-56.
That's tough. Oh.
That's tough.
This is an all-time moment, ladies and gentlemen. This is an all-time moment. This is the only stuff you get here with the Crunch Time with the M326 duo. But
yeah, Iowa sucks.
Going back to Iowa, 5 losses against the bottom 4 teams. And if you go a bit further, number 10 is Penn State. Iowa lost to them. And number 9 in the conference is Rutgers. So Iowa actually beat Rutgers. So it's a team that lost 5 times to the bottom 4, 6 times to the bottom 5, but swept Indiana and swept Rutgers. Just really confusing stuff, and just another example of an Iowa team that had everything out in front of them and lost to Nebraska. And I feel like pretty soon we're going to have to start calling Nebraska our dads, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately. But, yeah, man, that game kind of encapsulated what Iowa basketball is, and it's living and dying by the 3. We could not miss in the first half. I think we were up by 20 plus in the first half, and then I vividly said we're going to go ice cold in this second half and we're going to lose this game. And that's kind of what happened.
Can confirm that is what he said, that I can't wait for us to go ice cold in the second half, and it's exactly what happened. Really, really frustrating stuff. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Nebraska's leading scorer had 12 points.
Squad?
Or excuse me, 16 points.
Yeah, put some respect.
Sam Greasel, good game from him. But yeah, just another day, another disappointment, and heading into the postseason, an Iowa team that truly can beat anybody, but absolutely can lose to anybody, as evident by their performance against the bottom 4 or 5 in the Big Ten. Oh, and also one of the worst teams in Division I in Eastern Illinois, losing to them as well. So truly, truly weird year, and I just pray to God that they can find some sort of consistency and, well, maybe shoot well. That seems like that's the path to this team winning. If they don't shoot well, they're gonna do nothing. So that's kind of where we sit there. But with that, we are going to take a quick commercial break before we hop into the conference tournament game. So bear with us. We'll be right back. If you haven't heard about Anchor from Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. It's the reason we're here today. Let me explain. Anchor has all the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. As I mentioned, it's why we're here today. Sam, why is that we're here today? Why did we choose Anchor?
It's free.
Because it's free. It is completely free, and that is huge when you're starting your podcast. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Huge shout out to Anchor for sponsoring this episode. Again, guys, if you want to make a podcast, it's really fun. Grab your buddies, talk about stuff you're interested in. Go to anchor.fm to get started with that. But we're going to hop right into these conference tournament games, man. It is really, really exciting time. Kind of a little appetizer to March Madness. Getting a lot of good matchups. We're going to start with the ACC. Kind of a surprising year in this conference. Let me tell you what, if you had preseason North Carolina being the 7 seed and Miami being the 1 seed, props to you. But Sam, anything stand out in this bracket as you look at it?
Yeah, this weird season for the ACC as a whole. Duke being a 4 seed, when's the last time we saw that? You mentioned UNC. Louisville has forgotten how to play basketball.
That team's bad, man.
I think they finished with 2 wins on the season, maybe. But yeah, just a weird year for ACC. Yeah, just weird. Very weird. Nothing really standing out to me though. But yeah, very weird.
Yeah, another team that I want to throw in there in the surprise, year that the ACC has. How about Clemson? Yeah. Clemson ending up with that number 3 line, kind of they earn that double bye, then only have to go through Virginia to get into that title game, which Virginia is a team that plays a style of basketball that can be beaten, right? I don't want to say bad, but a lower scoring team that is predicated on defense and keeping opponents to a low scoring total.
Yeah.
Are there any possible matchups in here that you're looking at? I mean, I know for me, looking at the possibility of Miami Duke, in the semifinal is looking quite nice. Another team I want to shout out is Pitt. They were a team that was kind of up and down. I think they when Miami had lost to Florida State, when Miami had blown that big lead against Florida State, I believe Pitt actually held the number 1 seed in the ACC at that moment. So another conference that has had a lot of movement. But I guess really let's get right to the chase, man. Who do you have winning this conference?
Yeah, you actually mentioned the team I have winning. They have been at the top a lot this season. Kind of slightly lost their way a little bit to end the season, but has been playing well all season. And I picked an upset pick in the ACC last year, and I'm going to go with another upset. I got Pitt in this one. I like what they've been doing all season. A little skid down later in the season, but I got Pitt winning the ACC this year.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. A team that, again, as we said, through most of the year was on that at least in the top 4, within the conference. I tell you what, Sam, I'm also going to go with something that you can call a upset, which is going to be weird because when I say who it is, how on earth is this an upset? But I tell you what, I'm going to go with a team who has won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight, including in the game before that they lost. They actually should have won because the referees ended up making a foul call as regulation ended, in which they went to the monitor and decided that it was after the buzzer, which I'm not sure how they came up with that ruling. And I think the ACC even came out and said that it was an incorrect ruling. And if this game were to be reversed, the result of this game was reversed, I believe this team would actually have a share with the regular season title. So they'd end up being the 2 seed, I think, based on tiebreaker. And that's the Duke Blue Devils, man. Yeah. Quietly, because we know what Duke's standard is on the basketball court. There's not much talk about them this year, right? They've been struggling when compared to Duke's standards, off to a bad start. But I tell you what, they've been about as hot as anybody down the stretch. I mentioned the 6 straight, that loss against Virginia. That was on the road at Virginia, in which, again, if the refs don't make that interesting call, Filipowski's at the line. He's shooting 2 with, I think, as time expired.
Yeah.
And even if you go back further, they kind of got boat raced by Miami over in Miami, but then won the 3 previous games before that, swept their in-season rival UNC. I like a lot about this team. I always thought that they definitely should have been better this year, but they got 2 7-footers. Kyle Filipowski, someone who can step out and shoot, kind of a stretch big, very athletic guy. You have veteran presence in Jeremy Roach, someone who's been there before, a veteran point guard. John Shire, I think, has done a good job in his first year as head coach, keeping things together. I mean, if you're Duke and you get off to this rough start, it's kind of easy to pack it in and have some of your guys start looking to, the possibility of going to the draft and then the combine and taking care of their personal stock. But he has inspired these guys to keep playing, and Duke is looking pretty good. So I've got the Blue Devils here taking the ACC in a kind of a stunner, kind of not really, but yeah, I'm going with Duke, man. I'm going with Duke. But with that, we'll move on to, is this the biggest crapshoot of a conference?
I have one that might compare to it, but yeah, it's up there.
I feel like the one you're thinking of is usually what the Big Ten is in terms of just how many good teams are just beating the crap out of each other. But we'll get there in a minute. We'll stick with the Big Ten now. Anything on this bracket standing out to you?
A lot. A lot of good matchups. I mean, I think anybody can win this tournament, honestly. I mean, if Ohio State wins their first one, they're probably going to beat Iowa. So,
seriously.
I mean, Nebraska, they look good against Iowa. I don't know how much stock you want put in that. Illinois has been a confusing team because, honestly, they didn't lose a whole lot. They were a top team last year. So that one, seeing them as 17 kind of pops out at me. Michigan, again, ups and downs all season. Purdue being a 1 seed. I haven't thought, if Zach Edey wasn't on that team, they would not be good at all. Yeah. And I stand by that.
I do too.
Northwestern as a 2 seed?
Dude. I mean, what a year from Northwestern. Chris Collins, the coach of Northwestern, he should run away with the coach of the year in the Big Ten. Just an awesome year. And I tell you what, the best backcourt in the Big Ten is in Evanston.
Yeah.
With Boo Buie and Chase Audige handling the ball over for Northwestern. When you have 2 veteran guys like that can score the basketball at an elite level, that's a difficult team to beat in March. But with all of that being said, all of these teams beating each other. We mentioned the struggles that Iowa had. Well, to close out the season, Penn State erased a big deficit to come back and beat Maryland on the last day of the year. Michigan, I think, has played every single team on this bracket within a one-score game.
Yeah.
Purdue has been the best team all year long. Indiana, they've been up and down, but hey, they've beaten Purdue twice this year. They seem to have their number. Northwestern, the backcourt I just mentioned. So many storylines, so many good matchups, excuse me. Who do you have winning this conference?
Oh, man. You know, I think I'm going Northwestern.
You going, dude? Believe
Dude.
in Chris Collins. Believe in those guards, man.
Like, okay, Penn State, Illinois have both had kind of wild seasons. I like Northwestern over either of them. I don't think Indiana is as good as they've been playing as a 3 seed, especially. I mean, they go on to beat Purdue, then they lose to Iowa, who lost to Nebraska. It's just a wild. I got Northwestern. I don't really have a good reason other than, like you said, their backcourt is phenomenal. Some of the best in college basketball this season. So that's my reasoning, I guess.
Just vibes. Just vibes. I tell you what, like, I'm trying to do this math too because, looking at these teams, obviously I have no faith in Iowa to do anything. A team
Did you last year though?
No. So that's true. That's true. I didn't last year. I don't this year. A team that I have my eyes on is Michigan. I mentioned before about how every single game I watch, they are in a close game with a really good basketball team. I think they've lost a lot of those close games.
Yeah.
So, but just make that shot down the stretch, make your free throws. You're looking at a whole different outcome. So Michigan is a team that I'm really, really excited about. Although they, of course, getting that 8 line. If they beat Rutgers, they got to go right and play Purdue.
Yeah.
And when Michigan, whose strength, of course, is Hunter Dickinson in the post, when you have Zach Edey in the post, I feel like that's a really tough matchup for Michigan. Going through this, Indiana is an interesting team for me also because they seem to have Purdue's number, and I personally do think Indiana is the second best team when you take everything into account in the conference. They got swept by Northwestern this year.
Yeah.
So with all of that being said, I think I'm going to go with who I think is the best player in the conference, which does not mean he should win Player of the Year. I do think Zach Edey will win Player of the Year, as he should. He was dominant all year long. But I'm going to go with Trace Jackson Davis, who I believe is the most skilled player in the Big Ten. And I'm going to go with Indiana to win the Big Ten, and including a third win over their in-state rival Purdue in the championship game. And Indiana officially owns that state.
Yeah.
So
I like that pick.
I got the Hoosiers.
I like that pick.
Sweet. So we'll move on to the Big Conference, man. What seems to be the heavyweight conference in college basketball. I feel like I'll let you take over this one in talking about the craziness of this conference.
This conference makes zero sense. Obviously, talking about Big 12, the best conference this year in college basketball. It's not even a contest, in my opinion, at least. Kansas at the 1 seed, they've looked really good, but they've also looked poor at some points. Texas, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, even West Virginia and Oklahoma State have been solid. Texas Tech and Oklahoma kind of the bottom feeders. They still are playing the best competition and could probably be a top 4 seed in any other conference. But
not to mention Oklahoma beat Alabama by 20 this year.
Yeah, exactly. This conference is a wild conference.
It's a gauntlet.
The matchup I'm looking at is this 4 versus 5.
Right off the bat.
Baylor, Iowa State, literally played last week.
Right off the bat,
and
man.
Iowa State losing their their third best scorer, and they go out and beat Baylor
In Waco.
in Waco.
Yeah. Just
I seriously have no idea where this conference could be going, but that Baylor Iowa State game is going to be electric. Honestly, all these games are going to be incredible. Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on this craziness, man?
Yeah, I mean, you said everything I wanted to say just about the extreme craziness of the matchups and how literally night in and night out you have an absolute banger of a game. You have a physical game. But I tell you what, of the matchups I'm looking forward to, I'm looking at the possibility in the second round, or the third round, excuse me, of getting Texas TCU. I know TCU has to go through Kansas State, which is no easy task. I could even throw in just that TCU Kansas State matchup. Will be something. But I mean, Texas and TCU, two teams that do not like each other. TCU, pretty recently won a really close game against Texas. I believe it was a 2-point game. I think Texas was able to get them when it was over in Austin. So, I mean, I think Kansas State may be the most underrated team in the conference. And if not Kansas State, I'm giving it to TCU because TCU has been a very solid team. Although in the craziness that is the Big 12, they're tending to get overlooked. So the possibility of Texas versus whoever wins that Kansas State TCU game is kind of what I'm looking at. And well, that Kansas State TCU game to begin with is another game that I'm looking at. Just again, bangers all over the place in this conference. But you know what question I'm about to ask next?
And I still don't have an answer for you.
Right. I'll take this because I do think I know who I'm going. It's not an exciting answer at all. Because I do think Kansas is the best team in this conference, and I am gonna go with Kansas. I think one of the things that is a knock against this Kansas team is how they performed on the road. I think a lot of their losses. I know I witnessed the Kansas Iowa State game in which Kansas went to Ames and they didn't look good at all. They also do have some good road wins though going into Oklahoma State, and I believe they went into TCU and okay, it was TCU I was thinking of, but or they went into no, that was home against Baylor. I'm so all over the place with the amount of great games in this conference, but Kansas, blue blood, their fans are going to travel. And where is this in
Kansas City?
And it's in Kansas City. Yeah, I think they're going to have the crowd advantage. I do think they're the best team. I think Jalen Wilson is going to be. It should be. I think going to be Player of the Year in the conference, and he is going to show why in this tournament. So, I've got Kansas. It's not the exciting pick, but hopefully, I'm hoping that the tournament has a chance to give us some upsets.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, we've seen it throughout the season. Why would the tourney be any different? And Tara, I like that Kansas pick, but I am gonna go with a team that's gonna beat Kansas in the semifinals. I got Baylor, man. I know they just lost to Iowa State. They had a couple nagging injuries. Most importantly, Keontae George wasn't feeling 100%. Iowa State, I've watched dang near every single basketball game of theirs this year, and they can't win on the road unless it's in Waco, I guess, last weekend. But their strong suit is having Iowa State fans supporting them. I just don't see them beating Baylor 2 times in a row. And then Baylor, Kansas, I think whoever wins that's going to win the championship. I don't think that's a very hot take, but it's what I think. So I got Baylor inching out Kansas and then taking home the Big 12 championship.
Dude, I am all aboard for some Flo Thamba. winning the Big 12 championship. You mentioned Iowa State. Iowa State fans, if you're listening to this, hear me out. Look at me right here. Look at me right here. If you, I will guarantee you this. If you go to Kansas City and you flood that arena with the Juicy Wiggle, you will win. All you need to do is get Juicy in St. Louis, and you will win the Big 12.
City.
Or sorry, in Kansas City, you'll win the Big 12. Just go get Juicy. It's all you got to do.
Facts.
That's it.
Facts.
All you gotta
That's
do.
true. No doubt. If y'all have no idea what we're talking about, look up the Juicy Wiggle Iowa State on YouTube. It's electric.
And then get Juicy yourself.
And we're saying that as Iowa alum. We're saying some's lit in Ames, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to be part of the Juicy Wiggle. But before we get into the next one, South Alabama down 3 takes a 3-point shot with under 5 seconds left. Rims out. It was halfway down. Rims out. Louisiana gets the rebound. 1.4 seconds left. They're sent to the line for 2. Looks like they're in the double bonus. So looks like you're going to need a miracle for the Jaguars. But what a game, man. What a game.
March, baby.
Ball rattles out. And by the way, I'd like to also say that Louisiana versus South Alabama, that's a 2 versus an 8.
Yeah.
In the Fun Belt. So.
Oh, tough shot.
And,
that's
brutal.
Heartbreaking.
That is heartbreaking. But again, first free throw is up and good. So that game is all but over. We're going to move out west into the Conference of Champions, in the words of the great Bill Walton. Sam, let's take a look at this bracket, man. Anything standing out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider this Conference of Champions. I mean, when's the last time a team from this conference won the championship? Arizona has got to be the last one. When was there? Exactly. But,
no idea. And I mean, it might even be UCLA under freaking John Wooden.
Yeah. Bill Walton, the man himself. But this conference is kind of the outlier of all these conferences we've been talking about so far in this episode. And there's a pretty obvious favorite in this conference. That being UCLA, they're number 1 for a reason. Arizona, again, just lost to Arizona State, who is the 6th seed. That could be interesting. Arizona.
On a full court shot. That is crazy. Go look up that shot. That was an insane shot.
That was lit.
But yeah, at home too.
Yeah. I think UCLA is going to waltz it through this Pac-12, and they're just going to make it easy and get their ticket punch to dance.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you. Arizona is a very talented team. They could easily win this conference. I think USC is pretty good. But beyond the top 3, I don't think really anybody's got a shot. I don't think really anybody's got a shot to do anything in March other than the top 3. And of the 3, man, I think UCLA has just been the more consistent team. If you notice a theme about all of my picks, I like picking who I think is the best player in the conference, and I think that is Jaime Jaquez of UCLA.
Yeah,
has been the best player in the Pac-12, so I'm going to roll with him. I'm going to roll with the Bruins. I trust Mick Cronin, and I'm going to go with UCLA as well. Not much I can add other than just lackluster conference. It looks like to me.
Yeah,
looks like to me. We'll end this discussion down south. It just means more in the SEC. The SEC Conference Championship. Sam, anything stand out?
Yeah, I mean, another loaded conference. I mean, Tennessee sitting at the 5 seed is kind of insane to me. Arkansas, Woo Pig, number 10, facing a tough Auburn team. Arkansas, obviously, I followed them the most out of all the SEC teams. About a lot of injuries, but a lot of talent on that team. Alabama, I mean, what more do we have to say? They are some shooters, to say the least.
Wow.
A&M Kentucky. I don't understand how they aren't just so good. They get like 3 top 25 recruits every year, and they all kind of they're not Kentucky of like early 2010s where they're bringing in guys like John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, DeMarcus Cousins, and just dominating everyone. That being said, Oscar Shibwe is a absolute dog.
He's a stud.
But yeah, man, this is gonna be another fun one that a lot of people are kind of looking over. Obviously, looking at that Big 10, Big 12, but don't sleep on this SEC tournament. It's gonna be a crazy one.
Totally agree. I do want to throw out, you mentioned a couple of those. That 7-10 Auburn, Arkansas. Oh,
Yeah.
baby, right away. Getting that matchup, Mississippi State, Florida. I personally believe Mississippi State will win that game. I think Mississippi State's a good team.
Yeah.
You look at the top 4 seeds. No one's talking about Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri had an awesome year this year. They're currently number 25 in the nation. Like that, this is a good basketball team. Texas A&M, one of the hotter teams in the entire country right now, jumped up to 18. Just took down Alabama in the final season of final game of the regular season. You mentioned loaded. But I mean, you know what the next question is?
Yeah.
Who wins this conference?
Golly. I really, if Ziegler, however you say his name, for Tennessee didn't get hurt, dude, I have a hard time picking anyone but them. They look so good. Obviously, tough games against Alabama. They're the number 1 seed. God, this is a tough conference. Yeah, I think Calipari gets his boys back on track. I got Kentucky winning.
You got Kentucky,
I think so, yeah.
Going with Shibwe. I like it. I also am gonna stay away from Alabama. They're a dangerous team, but I will stay away from them. Just I don't know. I feel like they're vulnerable. They have been throughout the year, and I'm gonna go with a team that just beat them. Give me the Aggies, man.
Wow.
This team is playing great basketball right now, and the country has not taken notice. I think that 7-10 Auburn, Arkansas is going to be an absolute dogfight.
Yeah.
So they'll get one team will limp their way into facing the Aggies, and I think they'll get a pretty comfortable win there. It'll be a big one against Kentucky, but or if Kentucky gets upset.
Yep.
And I think they'll be able to beat Kentucky, but again, that will be a tough one. And then going in Alabama, a team they just beat, I think they can do it, can win that game as well. So I'm going to go again. I'm going with the hot hand. This time, I'm not going with who I think is the best player in the conference. I think he already won Player of the Year, didn't he?
Brandon
Miller won.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so. So anyway, I'm going with the Aggies. I think, just a kind of a dark horse team, even though they are the number 2 seed. But
not a lot of people are talking about them.
Not a lot of people are talking about them, and they are good. They are good.
Yeah, as much as I wanted to pick Arkansas to win this thing, golly, do they have a tough road to get there. Auburn, physical, they play them tough. It's always within that 10-point or under. Then Texas A&M, who's playing some of the best basketball, and then potentially going to play Kentucky and Oscar Shibwe. We know what he's all about, and it's just a tough road for the Hogs. But don't sleep on my Hogs.
Don't sleep on them, man. Don't sleep on anybody in the conference, really. And I mean, going back to that Texas A&M one to throw in, they're winners of 8 of their last 9. And game they lost was down in Starkville, a close game against Mississippi State. But yeah, I mean, really every conference, but the Pac-12 is one that we're thinking is deep, is going to be an absolute dogfight, and we are absolutely here for it. So, Sam, before we wrap up the episode, run us through your conference champion picks.
Yeah, man.
One more time.
Crazy conference tourney coming up. I have another upset in the ACC. I'm trying to go 2 for 2. I got Pitt win the ACC. I got the best backcourt duo, Northwestern winning that Big 10. Big 12, it's a toss-up for me, but I'm going with the Baylor Bears. Pac-12, chalk, UCLA. And then I got Kentucky and Oscar Shibwe win the SEC.
Those are some good picks, man. In the ACC, I'm going to roll with Duke. In the Big Ten, I'm going to go with Indiana. In the Big 12, I'm also going to go with Chalk. Rock Chalk. Jayhawk.
Nice.
In the Pac-12 is the True Chalk, UCLA. And in the SEC, give me the Aggies of Texas A&M. So we could not be more excited. I believe in the conferences that we just touched upon, because as we had mentioned, conference tournaments are underway. I know we talked about this game before, but officially,
Yeah.
Louisiana is going dancing. So
Yeah.
congratulations to the Raging Cajuns. But I'm just so excited to get into these, specifically these 5 conference champions. We didn't even mention the Big East and how deep that conference can be. A lot of good teams in the Big East. So another conference tournament to keep your eyes on. But any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on how we're sitting here ready for this college basketball postseason?
Yeah. I mean, like we said, best time of the year, March. Lot of fun basketball, teams you never heard of competing, where everyone's watching Furman versus Chattanooga, South Alabama versus Louisiana. It's just the best. And I am so excited. This is my Christmas, man. It's so fun.
It truly is. And no better time to celebrate it than with us here on Crunch Time as we break this down and give our predictions. But stay tuned. Next week we will have the March Madness field, and we will have the pre-tournament show, talking about the regions, who we like, dark horses, similar style to this, but doing so in the actual March Madness tournament. We will also have a special guest. Should we keep it to ourselves, or should we share with the people?
Let's keep it to ourselves.
Let's
give the people a surprise next
Maybe
week.
We'll announce it on Twitter. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we're not announcing it now. Stay tuned to find out who our special guest is going into next week's episode. But that's going to do it for us on episode 85 here of Crunch Time. You can follow the podcast at crunchtime_pod on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. You can follow Sam at...
Instagram, Sam_Godsey21, and then Twitter, SamGodsey29.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TDislin22. The clock has run out on this episode, but we'll see you in the next one on Crunch Time.